Welcome to the show, everybody. It's me, Stretch, from the Follow D Money podcast. And this week, as I was on my search to find interesting people to talk to and have a conversation with, I found myself looking to speak with someone who I find to be hilariously funny and gorgeous and relevant. Hannah Roeschlein, welcome.
Holy shit, what an intro. Jesus Christ. I'm stunned right off the gate. You had me at gorgeous. My ego is something I'm working to eradicate, but I'm happy to be here, Stretch. What a way to bring me in. I'm already in your palm.
Yeah.
You've clearly done your research. You just look at my Instagram, you're like, this bitch loves being coddled. She clearly likes people to know her specific preferences. Let's hit her up top, butter her up, and now.
So I did a good job.
Bingo, bango.
Good. I need you to explain to everyone how you got into comedy. How did you get into comedy as a profession?
I am 37 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I have always been a funny person. I think anyone that's known me at any stage of my life would say that I am conversationally hilarious or amongst like the funniest people in a room. That's just who I was. It was potentially growing up a mechanism for like therapy or a sort of like speaking my own truth. I have a pastor dad and an Asian mom. So comedy was something that I used almost like a shield, to protect me from whimsical racism in a small town. And also just, as a human being kind of growing up in the different factors I was in. Now, fast forward into my adulthood, I began drinking around my early 20s and I never stopped until I was 35. So I'm about 1,000 days sober from alcohol.
Nice.
In that time, 4 years ago, I started doing stand-up.
Wow.
It was something I'd always considered. In fact, had people my whole life be like, you do stand up. And I'm like, I know, but I would actually have to do that. And I don't think you guys know what this is about. I think I've always had an idea that I was like, oh, I could do that. But I knew that to do it would be really to do it.
Right.
So when I started, I was drunk. I'm drinking still. I'd just gotten out of a relationship and I was like, fuck it, bitch. You think you're so fucking funny? Why don't you go put your money where your mouth is? So I wrangled up 15 of my buddies and I went to an open mic in the basement of Shoe Fly public house. And that was kind of where Pandora's box was opened and no one has been okay since. Apologies, everybody. Thanks for being here still. But with that said, I mean, the first year and a half of me doing stand-up comedy, I was like being able to like be the kind of gregarious, popular person I am, and people would come to watch me do comedy. But it was also, unbeknownst to me, the last year and a half of my drinking days.
Okay. So
it's like I had a 15-year stint with alcoholism, and it just happened to be on its like death spiral in my first year and a half of comedy. So like my first year and a half of comedy, frankly, was well attended, and I was like on some little shows, I guess. Like I started self-producing and doing some things to keep me on stage, but I was so fucked up. I would write sober, but by the time I was on stage, I couldn't remember. My punchlines would swim because, like I said, I had drank that long and it was all just kind of coming to the ends. But I was doing it simultaneously with this thing that's already incredibly difficult. Yeah. So like even my formative memories of comedy, like I could barely tell you. Like if you're like, oh, hey, and I saw you at a Hotel Tango show XYZ amount of days ago, I'd be like, yeah, what was that like? Because I'm just like, you'll remember more than I would.
Right.
And that's just the reality of what that 15 years looked like for me. But comedically, when I stopped drinking about 1,000 days ago, everything changed immediately.
So you're saying, so when you started stand-up, you were saying that you were at the peak of alcoholism.
Well, not necessarily the peak, but I was in the very last days, so you can imagine if I'd been drinking for 15 years at a very high level. And when I say high level, because if you're listening, you're like, oh, how much could this tiny little bitch really be drinking? Dead serious. I was having minimum 10 drinks a day on the low side of the street for 15 straight years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I
Yep.
did jail time. I had DUIs. I lost every good serving job I've ever had.
Right.
It was just the reality with which I was consuming alcohol. So, like, if you can imagine whatever that would look like to be about to come to a screeching halt, pair that with my first year and a half of comedy.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction to this scene.
Dang.
But I stuck through it. I created Red Flag Comedy, which is like my baby, with my friend.
Mhm.
And we started producing shows. And basically, Red Flag was created because I was sort of a liability. It was because of me. I've always said whatever I wanted on stage. And nothing has changed in sobriety as far as that's concerned.
Yep.
I just definitely have a lot more intention behind everything that I'm saying. So
Yeah.
if it's crass, people know I really fucking mean it now.
Yeah.
Which is
I think when I think about comedians, I think about people who have a very high tolerance for self-mutilation. Like, it takes a lot of balls to be a comedian, to say, I'm choosing comedy as a lifestyle. And you either have to have some kind of craziness to you.
Oh, I'm just taking a sip of water before I launch into whatever I'm going to say in response to what you said.
Yeah.
First of all, abso-fucking-lutely. If you're in it and you're either good at it or you're just going to do it, you know, to any high level, like, you're sunny side up.
Yeah.
Like, your brain is like, I am unwell. And I tell people that all the time. I think people are like, they're so fooled by my sleek Asian case. And am I like, I articulate, you know? So people are like, yeah, we want to be with you. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't fucking get it, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I remember a dude I boinked for 5 weeks last quarantine when I was bored and wanted to go to Florida and get dick and a manicure. I don't feel great about it. My parents are fine. Well, but gotta say, like, I remember this dumb dude just being like, are you gonna talk about me on stage? I'm like, certainly, but it's eventually not. It's not gonna be what you want. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't know what you think this is. Like, I don't. The thing that
you're not gonna romanticize about him.
If you see me on stage, which on any given the night of the week you can,
right,
and you watch me, and then you're like, I want to take that bitch that just called her pussy squirt curry home to my mom and dad. Well, sir, I don't know what you think I'm going to be like behind closed doors. Like,
it's not an act.
You know, it's not. Yeah. You know, so it's like, it won't change because of things like that, you know. And I've been like trying to be in relationships is tough for me, just because of like the nature of how transparent I also am. It's like, I'm not up there like doing clean comedy, which I value. I think those people are fucking geniuses, like Bargatze and them. Like, I bow down to them because like, how?
It's difficult, especially in the cancel culture era. Like, how do you manage around being not clean?
I don't. Yeah. I just know that every single thing that comes out of my mouth.
You're not scared.
No, you can't be.
Right.
If you're going to be authentic, at least.
Right.
You can be fearful all you want, but I'm going to pass you every fucking time.
Yeah.
Because a fearful posture is not one meant to ascend. You know, so it's like, that's a low frequency energy.
Yeah.
And that's a different conversation. I could easily meta like you with this conversation too. I'm like, you're right now looking at me like, what is wrong with this?
No, not at all. I've always felt like comedy was the avenue that people can really be themselves and really speak their mind and really offend people.
They for sure can. And people are offended by more than ever today.
Now. Right.
You know, and there are things that I've never even considered to be offensive that a person will feel offended by.
Yeah.
But that's why I also, like, I was like, hey, I can't control the way I make anyone feel about what comes out of my mouth. So I better honor myself in disseminating whatever it is that creatively I want to express, because somebody's going to come for me either way.
Right.
You know, but I also
no matter what you say or do.
Yes. And I know that no matter what, with that same thing, even if it's not like a dirty joke, somebody could still just like not receive it well or whatever. So it's like, I'm always kind of at the chopping block, but I am also aware that I'm like, if I know that this is coming from a good place, well, that's hard to combat too. And I think a lot of the people that watch me now do comedy, especially if they're not familiar and I'm just happen to pop up at a bar show and people are like, what the hell's going on over there with that little boy, the non-binary body growling at everybody? Like, I don't get it. I mean, like, if you can't see me right now, some days I have a Carhartt beanie on and I look like the hottest dude at the skate park. It is alarming. Like Shaun White's little cousin. And still, people just want to smash. I don't understand.
Snow White.
Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. Everything about me, I'm like, I want to thank my sponsors, La Choy Soy Sauce and Andy Cap's Hot Fries. Jesus. But yeah, like, it's hard. So I'm like, I might as well be me. And not only that, the only way I know that I can combat the bullshit and the noise is to be good. Right. And I say, and I don't mean like pristine. I just mean good.
Yeah.
Like, I give a fuck. I love other humans more than myself, much to my detriment. And it's apparent on stage. So it's like, I might say a ton of things all 10 to 30 minutes that you do not like, but you cannot leave a room and look at me and not know my heart.
Yeah.
And that's all I can do at the end of the day to make sure that, like, the things that people are going to come for me anyway for just have like a couple, you know what I mean, things to stand, like legs to stand on. And now most of the time, because people knowing truly who I am, they'll do the bidding for me.
Right.
So if somebody like wants to troll me, a lot of times, like on my Facebook, somebody's like a dumb dude said something, and before I've even seen it or would respond, people have like caused that person to want to kill themselves. You know what I mean? And then they're blocked from the patron saying down on South Meridian. And I'm like, I haven't even thought of another human being
they
yet.
can't even get in bars anymore.
Nah, dude, before I've even came and had my coffee and people are jumping on it. But that's where, if you're not bullshit and people know you from the start.
Yeah, they'll protect you.
You know what I mean? You're not totally like above it, but you can be insulated a bit. Yep. From that kind of stuff. And for me, it's important too that I have people know who I am, so that in the times where it's like, oh, if comedically some things aren't working or people will come for me, it's like I at least won't have to defend those types of things.
Yeah. What is it that you want from comedy? What do you want comedy to give you in your life?
I'm already getting from comedy more than I ever thought comedy had to offer me.
Okay.
And I definitely thought it had, at bare minimum, therapeutic elements.
Yep.
You know, I'd been using it before I just started seeing a therapist for really the first time in my adult life. Clearly needed it a long time ago. Shout outs to Leah. You're going to be hearing a lot of shit, and I'm so sorry.
Celia. Dr. Celia?
No, her name's Leah.
Oh.
My new therapist.
Oh, okay.
I don't even know if we're supposed to say their names.
No, probably not.
I don't have any privacy. I don't know any privacy. I'm like, somebody could boink me and the next second I could be on stage and be like, so Kevin was inside me and he said this dumb dude thing. That's a warning. Everyone in the sound of my voice, like, come around at your own peril. But yeah, I just, what were we even talking about?
We were talking about what you wanted from comedy.
Well, one, the therapy, needed it, loved it. Two, it was a creative outlet for me, and I was able to do that. I'm an English major. Okay. So just even being able to write highbrow labia jokes is nice. Yeah. That's still an extension of that, that time I spent at IU.
So you write your jokes.
Yeah.
A lot of comedians write their jokes, right?
I'm a mixed bag. Okay. I'm doing it weird.
Okay.
I'm just doing it rare, and I only know I'm doing it rarely because people have started telling me that not many people are doing it the way that I am. And that's because recently on stage I started doing kind of stream of consciousness. Mm-hmm. And I think I thought more people were doing it that way, even though I for sure knew they weren't.
So is that kind of like freestyle?
And it's and once again, it's unwell. So like, if you're listening to this pod and you're like, you want to jerk off or whatever for whatever reason, but you're thinking about comedy and how you want to do it. First of all, you can't do it if you're not tapped into it. Like you can't access that kind of that flow. Yep. I mean, and I guess now hearing you say that, it is like a freestyle. Yeah. But it's not always great, and there's definitely like some like you'll hit some like little moves with it. But overall, it's just it's something I've started doing, and like I said, I started doing it like last November, on the road, and I just because I was high one time driving to Dayton. I can just tell you the truth, and I was like cutting it close. I was coming from like a serving shift at the garden table, and I was about to go in there and like do a show. I was about an hour ahead of time. I leave the city immediately. I'm like, fuck, I'm in traffic and I can tell it's bad. I'm like, something's up. And I was like, I had that little time budget and I just watched that time get shorter and shorter,
Yep.
you know, in my mind. And now I'm stressed. So I'm like texting the people that are there at Wiley's and I'm like, hey, I'm going to be like right on showtime now, you know?
Right.
And I'm just thinking, okay, like they know me, they'll put me up like a few spots in or whatever. So like when I was on the road, I couldn't like think about my set at all because I was so stressed out from the start and stop driving and just like what I had to do. So I started thinking about what I was going to say in my head a little bit. And I always think about what I'm going to say. But this way in the car, it was like a little bit different. Something in me knew it was like, oh, you're not going to, you know? And I walked into Wiley's and I see the dude and he's like, hey, you're here. He's like, great. And I was like, yeah. I was like, how many more spots before I go up? He's like, you're next. I was like, fuck. You know, I was like, I can't even put anything down in my note. You know what I mean? In my phone, like whatever.
Yeah.
So I just like, I remember like looking around and it was a sold out room at the club. And I was just like, bitch, you got this. You know what I mean? I just like, there was something in me that was like, you got it. Like if you don't, you're about to eat a dick. So don't.
Yeah.
Like, why did you do this for? So like you get up there and I just like went up and for the very first time, I just like, it was all a riff. And I think anyone that's ever known my comedy has known like, I riff constantly. I will go up with set lists and then I abandon them because I see a squirrel or I want to talk about Kobe or anything. I've been known to talk about any and everything ever.
Yeah.
So like I'm never doing new stuff, but like that was like the first time that like I really went up and I just was like, hey, you know, like your brain, your gut, all these things are finally in alignment and sobriety and the work that you do tirelessly. Like you got to do a trust fall into your human right now and then just see like what's happening. And I kind of went into the stream of consciousness and I just remember not only like being aware, I felt like I was floating above my body a little bit, but just like the awareness of like that stream of consciousness is complete presence. It's like it's nonsense, but you know, it can be, you know what I mean? But it's like to do it, you have to be so right there that it was like, I remember that room. I remember last year I had been having trouble in certain Midwestern rooms because I was so anti-Trump.
Yeah.
And I was like, it was coming out of me where I was just like, I felt like we had an active shooter in the White House. And I was like, I was on stages and I was like, sounded like I was on a campaign trail and not comedy. But it was because I was terrified and I hated doing comedy with that clown.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? In the office with people thinking in real life that he was funnier than me on Twitter. That's absurd.
Yeah.
But he does have more followers a lot. And Kung Flu was funny. One thing. That's all he gets. But I was like freaked out, you know, but it was all stuff. I just remember like launching into that. And I remember even in that night, like half that room was probably Trump supporters. It's Dayton, Ohio.
Right.
But I remember having everyone with me. And an understanding that there was something in that like current, that kind of being in that style presented me. And I like started doing it then. And I kind of never stopped.
Yep. And
then this year I started headlining little like headliner juniors and doing whatever and some other things. But I mean, to say it's not without some effect would be lying, but I'm also just like kind of looking at you saying, hey, this is something I've just started doing and accessing. But
so you like to tap into it when you need to.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm never sure if I'm not tapped into it anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
Yep. So what would you consider successful in your career?
I'm having some of those things also right now, but I definitely want more things. You know, like I just got passed at the Laugh Factory in Chicago. That would have been something where I'm like.
So when you say passed?
Passed, if you're not familiar with that, it honestly, a lot of my friends, when I told them that, they were
like, sounds negative.
They were like, oh my God, they didn't like you, you know, like cry emoji. And I'm like, no, it's the opposite. So in comedy, when you get passed, that just means that you're basically at a club or somewhere given a golden ticket. That says anytime I'm in town, I can now reach out to the booker at the Laugh Factory and say, hey, I'm coming in, and he'll give me spots.
Dang, that's nice.
It's just access. It's comedy currency. It's like Bitcoin. It's not real, but if it isn't fucking real, it spends like it is because I'm going to Chicago in a couple, you know what I mean? A few days, and I'm on that stage twice.
Right.
And I got passed after my very first time, which was in April. So.
That's good.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, congrats.
But like little shit like that. But of course, there's like the other stuff. Like I want to, You know what I mean? I want specials.
Yeah.
I want certain other things, but I also want a lot more than things comedically. Like I want to write a book.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm writing pilot scripts right now.
You
I'm
could
about to
actually
put
write
out
a book now,
brand.
though. Yeah.
I know that.
Yeah.
But Stretch, where is the time? What
Right,
are you?
exactly.
We're looking at each other, you know what I mean? While I was running late off of acai bowl brunch, you know, about my own podcasts that
Right.
are not yet even out yet,
Yeah.
because clearly we can do all of these things.
You got a
But,
lot on your plate.
you know, I just also am like, I'm not a young twat anymore. You know, it's just where I'm just like,
Yeah.
dude, people are like trying to call me at 10 p.m. and I'm like, I've already been, some nights I'm already asleep. It
Right.
sounds like very lame, and I know everything about
No.
me with my 8
That's
dumb
what happens when you
tattoos
hit
and
mid
body.
30s.
Yes,
That's
a
what
wrap,
happens.
dude.
Yeah. It's over.
I've already had half a life today, you know? But it's like that's the kind of stuff where it's like that stuff's happening, and I want to comedically, though, it's like sky's the limit. You know, there's nothing that I don't want to try. You know, I think I have a lot to say.
You would do sitcoms?
I'm writing pilots right now.
Right.
You know, it's like
Yeah. That's autopilot, really, it seems like, if you could do a sitcom.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be less awkward on screen. My sister told me I would have to definitely be on my own show, and I was like, well, I didn't want that. But okay, it's fine. Twist my arm.
Yeah.
And I do look okay for 37. I remember the second thing you said was gorgeous. I am doing okay.
Don't forget that.
I know, because people hearing the podcast are like, for sure this girl is scary. You know, it's like, listen to my voice. Like every time a dude's like, come here, Hannah. And I'm like, you want this wrapped around your 4 inches? Sounds like a gravel road, Connor. You're so stupid.
Oh, man.
Yuck.
All right. We're gonna pivot a little bit.
Hell yeah.
You grew up in the country, you said, Farmtown, Indiana.
75 minutes west of here.
Okay. Not easy. And recently, you know, we've had the hashtag Stop Asian Hate. Yeah.
Yep.
And how did that resonate with you? Especially growing up in the shit, I would say. And then you've seen it all the time, different angles.
All of it.
You know what I mean?
For 37. And this year, more than ever, being able to kind of compartmentalize a lot of these different experiences and like understanding what this has looked like over time, but also just being able to be like, hey, the shit I was dealing with as a little kid, it's not gone away. It's worse.
Right.
You know, it's like I grew up half white, still ducking and dodging whimsical racism on the playground. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I would get called things like gook or spick. You know what I mean? And I'm like, mom's from the Philippines.
Right.
Which makes it fucking hilarious that a neighbor called my brother Filipinus one whole year. Because I did not know how he knows. Like he's a hillbilly ethnicity whisperer. So shout outs to you, you woke prick. TL is fine. But yeah, I mean, but that's like the kind of stuff, like I joke about it on stage now, but it's absolutely true. Stretch, you cannot make this shit up. In 2005, Clay City, Indiana, where I went to school, 75 minutes west. It's not a foreign country.
Right.
Just down the street.
Yep.
Okay, just down the street.
Yep.
I go there sometimes to terrorize my parents. See if God is real. There he is. She, maybe. I don't want to get into this. Them. They, them. All the other pronouns. I'm getting woker. I'm trying. Our age, also, we're not good at it.
Yeah, no, I'm
so
not good
show
at the
us a
lingo.
lot of grace. That's just a PSA.
No cap. No cap.
I'm just not doing jokes about Columbus anymore or whatever upsets kids. God damn. But yeah, dude, I mean, the playground is just like, and I was popular. So like, I can't even imagine, you know, and I'd be like, why are you bullying me? Like, my dad's the pastor of your church.
Yep.
Like, this is absolutely ludicrous. But like, I was 2005, they put my sister, my kid sister, in blackface in a 5th grade Notable Americans play.
Wow.
That's not 1955.
Right.
That's 2005.
Wow.
My dad and I were in attendance, and I was 20 years old, and I don't think the blatant racism of it really hit me because Carmela looked so fucking hilarious. She's my hot younger sister. I think she was even hot then, probably at 10, already had the tits I'll have to pay for. And I was just like looking at her, and she had this like like probably the darkest foundation they could find at the Dollar General, you know what I mean? And my kid sister, my half Asian, half white kid sister played Jackie fucking Robinson. And I laughed the entire time with my dad because we're clowns.
Right.
But later in reflection, I realized I'm like, Jesus Christ,
Right.
guys. You know what I mean? But that's that's just down the street.
Right.
That's a real ass story.
Yeah.
That's one of probably a million little experiences that people have had like this all across the board.
Yeah.
And not all of them end up with shoe polish, and some of them end in the grave.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so like now, you know, here I am, I'm like talking on stage recently, and I'm like, of course, want to be like have some levity about it or provide a little bit of like lightness. But I'm like, guys, I'm like, it sucks. Like, even being like Asian American right now, you know, it's like, it's tough. Like, I was like, I don't even like having to figure out when I like see like a white guy look at me, if he's just like wanting to see if I squirt Thai chili sauce or he's going to ruin our day here at the fucking nail salon.
Right.
You know, and it's like, that's a ha-ha thing and it makes people uncomfortable, but that's my fucking reality.
Yeah.
You know, that's the reality of what with which we live, you know?
Yeah, that's what people kind of don't understand. It's like, we don't know if somebody's looking at us because they're interested or if they're hateful, or we have no idea. When it should just be, we're just all in the same space. That's what it should be.
Certainly.
How do you find so with all minorities, like Black Lives Matter had a moment during the pandemic. Stop Asian Hate recently was the big hashtag.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that the minorities need more solidarity? Because sometimes I feel like there's not a lot of camaraderie between Asian Americans, Black Americans, when it's time for us to stand for each other.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. But I'm kind of, you know, I'm a person where here in Indianapolis where we live, you know, Indiana, where I'm homegrown and from, you know, it's like there isn't a thriving Filipino population here or Asian culture.
Right.
Like, I'm starting to meet some Asians here in
Yeah.
town, but growing up, like I said, I didn't have like them around. You know, the most culture people got is if they came to our birthday parties and mom would make lumpias and
Mm-hmm.
different things like that. So a lot of me in my adulthood right now is even trying to find more of my voice amongst, I don't want to say my people, but truly that's, in certain groups with which I am in and of.
Yep.
I am working right now to kind of address what are the needs within, you know what I mean, BLM or in the Asian American hate things, and then take those things and then say, Hannah, what can you personally now do to affect change or spread awareness in any of these areas with which I choose to share my focus of my social media and what I ask the people that watch me tirelessly put up content slide after content slide. Like, I don't waste that time. So it's like, if I'm going to ask something, I want to make sure that one, I'm knowledgeable about it, but two, you know, that I like understand like truly that like I don't want to just be like some kind of like puppet influencer.
Yeah.
Or just a person who shares things to share and has no idea about what's really happening. So a lot of my growth in the past 16 months has just been taking our time that was in to read and to think thoughtfully about things and to finally like do the heavy lifting on just learning terminology and better understanding feminism in general or certain things, and reading different types of books and talking to different types of people. And, you know, definitely everything in my life benefited from that, including my comedy, you know, just from being just more human centric in that way. But it's definitely something I want to get into. And I even now, like looking at you, I'm like, honestly, before quarantine, I was about to move to Chicago on the way to probably LA, you know, for writing and comedy and the things that I wanted to do. But I've buried 7 friends now in the past 16 months extended, none over 40, 1 from COVID. So it's like, that's just the seasons of life. And I'm not saying that to, you know, put a damper on anything for anyone. And I even talk about it on stage. It's more just factual. It's something to let people know, hey, it's tough as fuck out there. You need to be gentle with your mentals, you know? But in that time and in that grief and where I've been, I was just able to realize in the past year, I was like, you know, I will never be as strong as I am in my own home gym. And that's this place. As
Yeah.
much as that sucks, I don't even like saying it sometimes because I'm
Yeah.
like, ugh, get me out of here. We were
Yeah.
the first state to turn orange on election day.
Right.
I wasn't even out of the polls, and they're like, we'll call it. And I'm
Right.
like, for fucking sure.
Super frustrating.
For Donnie,
Right.
cool. I'm just here to say I'm from here, not dumb here.
Right.
Mark me down.
Yeah.
Kill me if Pence is back. Please put me on a list. Take me out of here. But I realized, I was like, hey, I can contribute positively to this skyline. I always look
Absolutely.
around, and every time I'm like, there's something here there's something that's not here that I would want somewhere else, like in another city. I'm like, well, bitch, you're gonna have to put it here.
Yeah.
And that sucks, and that's work. But it's like, even not like what we're talking about. It's just like me. It's like I have this. My brain's like, oh yeah, well, you're gonna have to create Asian American groups in Indianapolis to have those kind of things. It's like, if I don't know where they are, and I'm not saying that they're not out there,
Right.
but it's good that I think that's what's good about podcasts. And like, I didn't want to add a couple more to the arsenal just because I want to jerk myself off. I have plenty of dudes for that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I do understand that I have a platform to say some things, and there's a lot of things clearly that we need worked out.
Yep.
Just as a community that are bigger than the things that we're doing, which are podcasting and comedy.
Yep.
So it's like, to answer that question, that's a work in progress. And I think those are things that, like I said, I always have my ear to the ground. I'm so open to people. My DMs are wide open. I mean, people are shooting wild shots all day. So if that's you, come on in. But also, if you hear this and you're like, hey, something with this bitch resonates with me, I'm a person that just knows everybody as well.
Right.
I don't have endless time, and I honestly don't want to spend it with most of you, but I have a resource and like a network that is extensive beyond my wildest imagination, and honestly kind of multinational. So it's like, reach out to me, tell me what good things you're doing, and let me know how to like make some noise for that kind of shit. Cause it's like, I'm kind of tired of the sound of people's voices when it only serves them anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand those people anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay. There's still plenty of them out there, and you're going to make a lot of money, but I just don't fuck with you.
Right. I'm past the self-promotion stuff.
I have to do it, but it's because I understand the rolling of a ball.
Yep. Yeah. I get that. And with that, and with your network being so big and you being so personable, how do you manage, like, when people are in your DMs and somebody wants to ask you anything? Like, I'm sure, because I reached out.
I'm just starting to navigate that with like where that has any relevance.
Right.
Because but the thing about DMs anymore, that you can get a relationship out of DMs, and a good one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's not invalid. It's just like, it's a way to talk. And especially in the past 16 months, I've gotten booked out of my DMs, and not like stupid shows, like good ones.
Right.
That's just how people, it's like, it's more natural.
Yeah.
But I've started realizing where I'm like, I've always wanted to talk to everyone who wanted to talk to me since I was a child. That's just, I've never known any strangers. I've always had a lot of words and no fear, and I just wanted to talk to people.
Yep.
People are basically what kept me afloat through all those drinking days, just human beings being like, we love you. You've got to get out from under this. You know what I mean? And then now here I am, and I'm like, I got it, but I need you.
Yep.
So like with that sort of a relationship, it's like, dude, I don't know. I just what were we talking about in regards
ciphering
oh,
through.
so DMs. Oh, well, now I'm also just like, I always want to talk back to people and just be like, hey, thank you so much for this about sobriety, or thank you so much even just for being like, you're hot.
Yeah.
You're still saying something, and I try to hit the little fucking react, but I'm like, I don't even want to. But then sometimes people will start talking to me, and just open. People are desperate for conversation, and some people they truly just need to talk to someone, and I am available. And sometimes I'm very high, and I'm just like, I'll indulge it, or there's all these different things. But I know that I'm already starting to get to a place where like, I can't keep up with them.
Yeah.
Because even my buddy, like my roommate right now, is my oldest best friend from like late high school, and Scott's kind of running I'm gonna take care of my podcast and like drives me to every gig now.
Yep.
And like the things where people that are hearing this are like, oh, that bitch really thinks highly of herself. And I'm like, yeah, I do. So that's what you have to do now when you're doing the stuff that I'm doing.
Yeah.
But he's kind of taken over like a lot of my life, you know, as far as that's concerned. But he was even just saying, he's like, there's no way you can keep up with all the messages you're getting, right? And I'm like, I can't, because like and now I'm finding like I'll mean to respond to someone and it'll be something comedic related, and I just like I'll forget, or I don't have an answer at that time, and then it gets buried under stuff because like people are very active with my social media.
Okay.
I just hit 3,000 followers, so I think that's considered a micro influencer. Not that I've ever given a fuck.
Right.
Somebody told me that. They're like, that's what you are. That's the tier. And I was like, thank you so much from Squirt Curry and I. We are so thankful to be micro influencers. If I was a regular influencer, I'd already have gotten a letter from Steph Curry's legal team with a cease and desist on a pussy joke. Please don't come for me. I really like that joke. They're coming. I'm going to say it for one more year.
Yeah.
But, you know, just like I can't get to it, you know, and I also just like I'm like, I want to be careful where I'm just like, oh, the more I'm able, you know, the more people are watching and like conversing with me, I also don't want people to feel like I'm not talking to them, or I'm like distant. So I'm constantly always in that push pull of, am I doing this right?
Yeah.
But I'm also just like, this is an app.
Right.
And some of these people are just strangers, and it like sucks. But you know you're not a bad person, and you truly could not reply
to everybody. No,
I can't.
You can't do
Even
it.
people reach out to me about sobriety, and I have to be like, hey, I see this message. I'm literally about to go on stage, and I'll respond to this as thoughtfully as I can later.
Yeah.
And at some point I do, but that could be a week or two, and then I sit with that and I'm like, oh, that person, you know what I mean? But if we did that, then all day long I wouldn't have any space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To give to people the way that I do. So I just have to kind of understand that I'm like, hey, people in general, like let them know who you are. And if they know that you're good and they know that you're busy, well, people give me a lot of grace on response times and things like that. But it's absolutely a zoo in there.
Yeah.
It's mostly 25-year-old boys and girls just being like, let me take you to an Outback. And I'm like, I'm 37, River.
River's hitting
Tell
you
your
up.
mom to watch my pod.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
How old is that? 42?
40,
I don't know why
42.
I have to think about it like that. I'll be
45.
hotter. I'm bringing it. Please.
I'm 45.
I'm baby bonsai, dude. I say 37 even when I tell River, hey, River, I'm 37. I don't think you want to take me for 3 for 12. And he'll be, they're undeterred. If anything else, they're like, oh, yes, you are. And I'm like, ew, you disgust me.
They want to go to Olive Garden.
I'm like, I'm not into the stamina, believe it or not. I have to go to sleep. I need this guy with his 8 minutes. You know, but 5 years, fuck. 5 years from now, I believe myself, I'll just be at the helm, you know, of Hannah Land Inc. I'm about to launch a brand called Curated Savage.
Okay.
I got a couple of podcasts in line. Like I said, I'm still doing comedy.
Yeah.
And as much as I try to stand up there and get canceled so I can rest and just like let dudes pay for shit. No, turns out you guys won't let me. So I'm up there telling jokes. You blow my fucking mind with your support. You really put your money where your mouth is, and I hate you for it. I want to still be doing comedy.
Yep.
I imagine at that time, like I don't know. I've just received so much, you know, and not in a trust fund sort of a way. You know, I'm still serving.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting tables right now, and perfectly fine to do it.
Yep.
You know, understanding that that's what it is. So it's like, if you hear anything that I'm saying, please understand and take it with a grain of, you know, salt. It's not just like, you know, as we know, it's like most of what people see online is not indicative of all like what the day-to-day is and the pedestrian shit that goes into what these things look like. But like, I don't know. I think by then I'll have books.
Okay.
I'll have written books. I think at that point, realistically, since I don't know, I guess last week I should just say it out here, but I'm going to be very vague about it. In the past week, I have had a meeting with the head of A&R for 800 Pound Gorilla Records, the independent comedy label in Nashville, Tennessee,
Okay.
who put out like Kevin Hart stuff and some other just, names. People
Just
do
dropping.
stuff. Bigger names, big ones. Why are they calling me? So I was talking to them, and they're interested in doing my first album because of the Week of Chicago shows, and did
Nice.
some shows with a comedian named Robert Kelly, Bobby Kelly, who also major podcaster, came out with Burr and Them, big name. But that really great guy name dropped me because I
Wow.
guess he saw something
Yep.
in those people, and now they're calling me, and so potentially I guess I'm going to be recording an album this year.
Sweet.
So I guess in 5, maybe multiple albums.
Yeah.
I'd just like to think that you could still just like see me around town eating acai bowls at the garden table and know that I'm a person who put her money where her mouth is and
Right.
really like dug her heels
Yep.
in these corn fucking fields in rows and understood that, like, like I said, we have to be from here and not dumb here.
Yeah.
I
Right.
think if you have something you want to do in this town and you just need some help figuring it out, like, I'm probably the person to talk to.
That's what's up.
Maybe open a vegan restaurant or whatever I'm like doing at that time that's trendy. So
Well, if someone wants to get a hold of you, you want to give your social medias out?
I was like, not my number. Yes, Instagram is definitely my most fun social media. It's where I show off my body most because my parents aren't on there. At Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
If there's a show on Bravo called Vanderpump, so if you're familiar with that, it's just my name, HAN for Hannah. Vanderpump Rules.
Yeah.
I have my childhood Reggie Miller jersey on in the picture, because
Mm.
my tits never came in, so you should be able to find me quite easily. If you're on Twitter and want to be one of the 500 people that follows me on there, I am at Han Canyon 69.
Hand Canyon.
Yeah, that's another nickname for my pussy. Hannah Roeschlein is my government name, and I am on Facebook, but often at the friend limit, so don't be a twat if I don't have space for you. And otherwise, just be one of the weirdos who talks to me after shows and says things to me I can't unhear, because I love you
Dang.
guys so much.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to the show tomorrow that you're having.
That's going to be so lit.
I'm excited. And every time we get to the end of my podcast, I ask a question that has nothing to do with you or what we were talking about, but it's kind of off cuff. And here is your question.
Okay.
If you had the choice to become, and I think it's really relevant with you.
Okay.
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 If you had the choice to be any animal, what animal would you choose and why?
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a really good question.
You only get to pick one. I can see you picking like 4.
I know.
You could be a liker, like you could pick 2 animals in one.
That seems so extra.
Platypus.
That's
A
so
platypus.
extra. I'm like, my mind's like, what's the one that sleeps the most?
Bear.
Well, yeah, and they're formidable.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, a panda would be low-key kind of cute.
Yeah.
You end up in Asia, so, one way or the other, you are
They
already
chill?
be immune. I mean, plant-based diet.
Hmm? Koala.
Yeah, koalas are cute, but that's Australian.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to culturally
You don't want to be
appropriate
canceled.
this so much that it's a wreck. Immediately I was like, you're a squirrel, but that's not what I would want to be. That's who I am.
Right,
So I was
yeah.
like, no.
The squirrel probably has like a 3-year lifespan.
Yeah, we'll just go with panda bear.
Panda bear.
I'm gonna look into
Because of
panda
the
bear more.
plant-based diet and Asian heritage,
Sure. I mean,
and it's black and white.
what did you want me to say? Like something ferocious?
I don't know. I was looking for like a teddy bear, like a bear. Like
I don't want people touching me like that, and I don't want to be on somebody's, you know what I mean, propped up on somebody's bed anymore.
anymore.
I'm in the trees. Yeah, I'm out there in the trees or whatever where pandas are.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that for now.
Good.
I'm gonna go with that for now.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think that when people listen to this, they'll understand who you are and they'll appreciate your honesty. And I appreciate you coming
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to be here. We definitely kind of like went this isn't the first podcast I've done, and I think at some point like I'll probably be potting so much that that's like seems like what I'm doing
Yeah.
just cuz I want to disseminate, get onto people's things and talk to them about what they have going on. But like I appreciate this conversation just for a lot of the thoughtful avenues with which you were able to take my brain.
Right on.
So
Yeah.
that's a little bit of a, shout out for you right
Thank you,
back.
darling. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming. I appreciate your time, and hopefully this friendship grows into something. But please check out Hannah Roeschlein online, social medias, shows, everything. And once again, always go to followdmoney.com to get some merch, donate some money, listen to some episodes, all that good stuff. Peace.